Emmerdale airs a throwback to the limo crash storyline tonight, as the show revisits Matty Barton's grief for his late wife Amy. This week marks 1 year since the ITV soap aired the spectacular Stunt storyline, which led to the deaths of Amy, Susie Merton and Layla Harding. I end tonight's episode. A mournful Matty looks through old photos of Amy, but is interrupted by his grumpy stepdad Kane Dingle. This sparks a tense exchange, as emotions are running high at Butler's farm following Moira's imprisonment, and Joe Tate's sly attempts to take full control of the business. Kane is also keeping quiet about the challenges he's soon to face following his prostate cancer diagnosis, which only Sarah Sugden and Liam Kavanagh know about so far. "We're all run ragged here," Kane reminds Matty. "I've got little man Tate trying to get your mum's half of the farm off us, you know. I could just do without your moods, do you know what I mean?" Matty replies, "I might not be my usual cheeky chappy self right now, but I've got a mum in prison, and it was a year ago this week that I lost Amy. Just give me a break, yeah?" Later, Kane visits Moira in jail and updates her on how Amy's son Kyle is coping with the anniversary. Moira's dismayed to realize that she forgot all about the sad occasion, as she's so distracted by her own problems. With everything else going on, can Kane step up for the family members who need him? The limo crash disaster was one of Emmerdale's biggest ever stunts, exploring a shock tragedy that unfolded when a group of the village's ladies headed off for a glamorous night out, and their party vehicle crashed onto an icy lake. Natalie and Jameson, who played Amy, later reflected on her exit from Emmerdale when her character's funeral aired a month later. "I will never quite have the words to sum up what the last 6 years in Emmerdale has felt like and what it all means to me, but let me try and say a little something," Natalie said last March. "I have had hundreds of messages from people over the past couple of weeks to say how much they loved Amy. What a position to be in, to die, and hear everyone's words of praise. Haha. I'm incredibly fortunate and really grateful to all of you who have messaged." Tonight marked 1 year since the limo crash, a tragedy that had sent shockwaves through Emmerdale. The Stunt had been one of the most spectacular and harrowing storylines in the show's history, culminating in the deaths of Amy, Susie Merton, and Layla Harding. A glamorous night out for a group of friends had ended in catastrophe, as the limo they travelled in had skidded across icy roads and plunged into a frozen lake. The memory of that night still haunted the village, and for Matty, every anniversary carried a weight that no words could ease. But grief rarely exists in isolation in the Dales. Before he could lose himself entirely in sorrow, a loud grunt came from the doorway. "Oi, Matty!" It was Kane Dingle, stepping into the room with his usual scowl. He carried an air of frustration that seemed permanent, a man perpetually balancing the farm, family, and a growing list of troubles. Matty set the photo down quickly, forcing himself into a semblance of composure. "Hey, Kane," he muttered. Kane's eyes narrowed. "I could do without your moods right now. Do you know what I mean? We've got little man Tate sniffing around, trying to get your mum's half of the farm off us. And I'm run ragged as it is." Matty swallowed hard, the tightness in his chest making speech difficult. "I might not be my usual cheeky chappy self right now," he said, voice low but steady. "But I've got a mum in prison, and it was a year ago this week that I lost Amy. Just give me a break, yeah?" For a moment, the room hung silent. Kane's scowl softened slightly, the tension between them unspoken but acknowledged. The Dingle household was a furnace of emotion, and neither man had the luxury of gentle words. The anniversary of Amy's death loomed over them both, an invisible but oppressive presence that refused to be ignored. Later that day, Kane made the short drive to the local prison to visit Moira Dingle. Sitting across from her in the visitation room, he updated her on Kyle, Amy's son, and how he was coping with the milestone. Moira's eyes widened with sudden guilt. I completely forgot," she admitted, her voice trembling. "All I've been thinking about is everything else. This prison, this business. Kane, I'm sorry." Kane's expression was stoic, but a flicker of warmth crossed his features. "It's all right, Moira," he said, though the words felt heavier than usual. "We've all got our battles, but someone has to step up. And right now that's me." The weight on Kane's shoulders had been growing quietly. Only Sarah Sugden and Liam Kavanagh knew the truth. He had recently received a prostate cancer diagnosis. The knowledge was a secret he guarded fiercely, not wanting it to distract the family or interfere with the farm and the ongoing business struggles with Joe Tate. Back at Butler's, Matty sat by the fire, sifting through more photos of Amy. Each one was a portal to the past, her laughter echoing in his mind, her gentle encouragement, the way she would tilt her head when listening intently to him. The memories were bittersweet, a constant reminder of what had been lost. Kane returned from the prison visit, his presence filling the room, even without a word. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handing one to Matty, though Matty refused to drink. "Not tonight," he murmured. Kane raised his glass anyway. "To them," he said quietly, his tone uncharacteristically solemn. "To those we've lost. And to keeping those we love safe, however we can." Matty allowed a small nod. The gesture, simple though it was, carried a depth of understanding that words could never match. The limo crash had not only taken lives, it had reshaped the Dales forever. Natalie and Jameson, who had played Amy, reflected on the story when it aired, sharing heartfelt messages about the outpouring of love she had received. "I have had hundreds of messages from people over the past couple of weeks to say how much they loved Amy. What a position to be in, to die, and hear everyone's words of praise. Haha. I'm incredibly fortunate, and really grateful to all of you who have messaged," she had said. Tonight's episode revisited that pivotal moment in the Dales' history. Through Matty's eyes, the audience was reminded of the chaos, the grief, and the resilience of those left behind. Scenes of icy roads, crashing vehicles, and panicked villagers were interspersed with quiet, intimate moments of remembrance. A juxtaposition that reminded viewers how tragedy could ripple through even the strongest communities. Moira, back in the prison's visitation room, thought about the family waiting for her. The farm, the business, the children, and the memory of Amy. Kane's words earlier echoed in her mind. Someone has to step up. And though Kane carried his own burdens, he had acted as the anchor the family needed during this anniversary, keeping the pieces from scattering completely. Matty wandered through the farm that evening, pausing by the lake where the limo had ultimately come to rest. He knelt and touched the icy water, letting the chill remind him of the fragility of life, of the suddenness with which it could be taken away. Each anniversary, each memory, was a lesson in both loss and endurance. Kane, meanwhile, retreated to the barn, quietly considering the battles yet to come. Joe Tate's attempts to wrest control of the business were escalating, and Kane had to balance that with keeping the farm running and protecting his family. All the while, he carried the knowledge of his own mortality, the diagnosis that only Sarah and Liam were privy to. That evening, Matty returned to the kitchen and found Kane sitting at the table, staring into the fire. Words weren't necessary. The quiet understanding between them, born from years of shared hardship, grief, and Dingle loyalty, was enough. They were both broken in different ways, both carrying secrets and regrets, yet both committed to standing firm for those they loved. The episode closed with a montage. The flickering flames of the fire mirrored in Matty's eyes as he looked at Amy's photo, Moira in the prison visitation room, a small smile tugging at her lips as Kane recounted Kyle's day, and the quiet, determined presence of Kane at Butler's, ready to face whatever storms lay ahead. Tonight, the Dales remembered. They mourned. And they continued, because that is the rhythm of life in Emmerdale. For those left behind, grief is not a single moment, but a thread woven through daily life, demanding attention, care, and resilience. As Matty finally tucked the photos away, he allowed himself a moment of solace, thinking, Amy may be gone, but the love, the memories, and the bonds she helped forge would carry on. And in the Dales, no matter the tragedy, life, messy, complicated, and beautiful, would continue to move forward. Kane rose from his chair, stretched, and muttered, almost to himself, "We'll get through this, one way or another." And in that quiet, understated way that the Dales does best, it felt like hope, small, flickering, but undeniably present, was beginning to return to Butler's farm.